Put your hand up if you have a phone. Keep your hand up if you enjoy taking photos on that phone. Keep your hand up if you have a love-hate relationship with your phone. Me too, me too. The doctor looked up from the test results. You have cancer. I was 20 at the time, and this wave of fear, worry just washed all over my body. But I told myself I was okay. My whole life, I'd been suffering from anxiety. I think much of that anxiety came from really wanting to please a person I cared very deeply about, my dad. He was in the Navy, and so naturally I thought I had to go into the Navy as well. And at 16, I applied, way too immature and too anxious to get in. And deep down, I think I felt relieved I didn't have to follow in my father's footsteps. But that anxiety I had a name. It was called Moody Matt. Yeah, this was a label given to me by my family repeatedly over many years. I know you get the violins out, right? A few years after the Navy rejection, I received news that my parents were getting divorced. And it was a really messy one. And this was just as I was finishing school and about to go traveling and working for a year before university. But throughout those teenage years, something I think had been really brewing underneath from all of that repression. A part of me that wanted to rebel. So when the cancer diagnosis came in around a year or so later, I kind of reverted to type. Don't show any emotion. Don't reinforce the label of Moody Matt. And in that moment of chaos, the inner rebel came out more than ever. The cancer diagnosis actually took that rebellious energy that had been fighting all of these systems around me for many years and turned it into something useful, a productive rebellion. I took that energy and focused it on the one thing that felt authentic to me. Something more deep and more personal than just joining the Navy. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be a pilot. So I'd like to invite you into the possibility that creating from your inner knowing, from who you truly are, not what the world expects, is the only real path to understanding who you are and finding true fulfillment and equanimity in life. Because the meaning you create for your life is also the meaning you pour into your work, into your family, into your business, into the way you lead others, to the way you love, into the way you show up in the world. Now, my passion, my art is photography. But when I say art, the variety of ways that each of us are creating art in our own lives every single day. Through your business, through your family, through your job, through your purpose, through your voice, through your ideas, through your craft. My invitation to you is this. Who is it that you are creating your art for? Because when it's not for approval and it's not for applause, that's when it begins to feel like truth. So in my 20s, after much ambition and dreaming, I became that pilot. Many years of struggle, I'd finally made it. And I remember the feeling, it was just pure elation. Very quickly, that evaporated into just relief. I'd proven it to the world, to my parents, to myself. Because while I loved flying, it just put me in another system. A system that dictated where I had to be, when I had to work, who I had to work with, when I could take time off, how much I got paid, etc., etc., etc. So I was always looking for something else. I wanted something more. But this was the industry I knew. It was the only one I knew. But I wanted more freedom, more status, to cover up this feeling of confinement and this cognitive dissonance between who I really was underneath and who I was pretending to be. So I turned my attention to the Ferraris of the sky, the private jets, the suit, the swagger, the salary. I could travel the world, look important, feel important, and tell myself, this is it. And it was for a while. was exciting. I'd created a life that looked impressive from the outside, but inside I still felt very stuck back in childhood, still being told what to do, where to go, who to be, still performing. Eventually I realized something. None of this was fulfilling. None of this was purposeful. It was all for status. It was a cover-up story. A story that I would tell myself to hide who I really was and what I wanted to be. Until this repression and suppression really took its toll on me. And until I did the only thing I knew what to do next. I rebelled productively. And that's when I picked up a camera. At first, it was just to take photos of where I was going, to post, to prove, to validate, to be seen. And just like flying, I used this productive rebellion to really learn photography, to be the best at it. I learned all the gear, all the settings, light, editing, all of it. But when I showed my photos to people, it was generally met with ambivalence and empty platitudes. Oh yeah, no, that's really nice. But I was so sure I was really good at this, so why wasn't I getting this validation and attention that I clearly craved? After years of investment of time and money, I realized I wasn't capturing any meaning. I was just capturing pictures. Two-dimensional pictures with the sole purpose to impress. And then something changed. A friend of mine in Hong Kong, where we were living at the time, invited me to a photography workshop in Mongolia. I said yes. Obviously, cancer made me this serial yes man. And so I went. I joined 8 other people as we traveled to Outer Mongolia, where we'd spend our days sleeping under the stars, camping, photographing eagle hunters. Surrounded all this time by stillness, culture, and space. And cold. It was absolutely freezing. For the first time, I actually started to see, because there were 2 professional photographers on that workshop who gave me some of the smallest but most insightful and impactful pieces of advice that still stay with me today. About presence, about light, about how to be with people. And without ever saying the word and without ever really, I think, knowing what they were introducing me to, they were showing me mindfulness. And something shifted. I began to ask myself completely different questions. What do I truly want to capture? What do I find meaningful? What do I find beautiful? Where do I belong? And that's when I realized, up at all of this time, I was just creating for others, to impress, to validate, to be seen. And this workshop gave me something else. It gave me a bit of a window into myself, a new way of seeing, of slowing down, of being intentional. It reconnected me to something I didn't even know I had lost. And here's what I learned. Intention and mindfulness make you a better artist. Don't worry, this isn't too woo-woo. I'm a rationalist at heart. It's how I make sense of the world. But I wanted to take this term and apply it rationally to everyday life. So I spent a lot of time understanding how mindfulness and clear intention could help me not just in photography, but in everyday life, moment to moment, practice to practice. After all, if we're chasing happiness, when does it not become an endless pursuit? And when can we just be happy? But that's for another day. So I focused this investigation and rationalization into mindfulness on what I loved, photography. But of course, this isn't just about using a camera. It's about everything. It permeates every facet of life and every pursuit within it. Mindfulness and intention make you a better artist. Not just with a camera, with your time, with your energy, with your relationships, with your life, your story. So when I started bringing mindfulness into my photography, I did start to slow down. I'd no longer race to get the shot because it was a banger I could put on Instagram. I'd sit, I'd listen, I'd get to know the people. I'd wait for that perfect moment, not try and force it. And I became clearer on what I was actually trying to express. It gave me vision, not of light and composition, it gave me vision of purpose. And most importantly, it made me more empathetic. I wasn't just photographing a person anymore. I was co-creating an experience with them. And slowly but surely, over years, my photos started to become alive, a little bit more emotionally resonant. And this is what I believe now. Being a better artist isn't about knowing more. It's about being more present, more intentional, more you. And through becoming a better artist, I became a better man, a better partner, a better son, a better human. So what's possible for you when you begin creating from this inner place of knowing? For maybe your business, maybe your family, maybe your job, your craft, your story. You begin to express a version of yourself that isn't there to prove anything, but it's a version of yourself that's the truth. You stop asking, what will people think? And you start asking, what feels true to me? You stop trying to be impressive. You start being more intentional. And it doesn't matter what your art looks like, because whatever it is, when you create from alignment, not for likes, approval, and validation, you experience a fulfillment that no amount of material success can manufacture. You stop reacting and you start choosing. You stop performing and you start creating. But most of all, you become more grounded, more clear, more whole. So how do you start? Well, you don't need the next thing. You don't need the next course. You don't need more equipment. You don't need more time. You just need a moment of honesty and a willingness to listen to what's already inside of you. I say this a lot to the people in my mentorship program, especially when they're starting out with a camera. I get them to imagine a thought experiment where we're in a vacuum. There's no external validation pressures. There's no commercial pressures. There's no bills to pay. There's no children to raise. We can do what we want. If you want to do photography and you picked up a camera, what would you go and shoot? Now, of course, this is analogous to anything in life. What would you capture? What would you create? What would you say? What would you do? How would you behave? Just because it feels true to you. So whatever it is, pour yourself into the things that are most beautiful, meaningful, and natural to you. Because that's the part of you that's been waiting to be expressed. So my wish for you and for the world is this. You stop creating to be seen, and you start creating to be felt. You begin to live and work from what's real within you, not from what the world expects, but from what you find beautiful. Whether you express yourself through a camera, a conversation, a networking event, a company, or just a quiet moment, may you return to the things that move you, that ground you, and that come most naturally to you. Because meaning doesn't arrive from the outside. It's made moment by how you show up in the world. And so my wish for you is this, that through the story I've shared, you can begin to see the possibility of focusing your lens on what you find most beautiful, meaningful, and natural. Because that is where you truly become the artist you were meant to be. Thank you.